Look at me. This is not a crowd service. This is a classroom for kings in training. My real love is people like you who believe that this is for you. You didn't come for entertainment. You came for equipment. That's why I can talk to you straight. Jesus did not trust crowds. He fed them. He loved them, but he did not commit himself to them. John writes, Jesus did not entrust himself to them, for he knew all people. John 2:24. He trained a few to carry a culture, not an event. Tonight, I am after the few who will build a culture where greatness feels safe to appear. Write this down. Control breeds fear. Covenant builds trust. Say it with me. Control breeds fear. Covenant builds trust. Again, like you believe it. Control breeds fear. Covenant builds trust. One more time, for your future's sake. Control breeds fear. Covenant builds trust. That is our thesis. That is the line that will confront your habits, your boardroom, your staff meeting, your family, your ministry, your company, and yes, your own heart. The question that brought us here is not complicated, but it is costly. What makes cultures feel safe enough for greatness? Not safe enough to survive, safe enough to become great. The Bible says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. That's not a poetry line, that's a leadership law. If the heart of a culture is afraid, it'll become small. If the heart of a culture is covered, it will become bold. Write this down. Safety is not the absence of risk. It is the presence of covering. Let me define our playing field. In Genesis 1:26, the manufacturer's original press release, God said, let us make man Adam, the species in our image and after our likeness, and let them have dominion. The Hebrew word for dominion is radah, rulership, responsibility, authority to govern a territory. That means you were built for leadership, not for hiding. You are not an accident. You are an assignment. But dominion cannot flourish in an atmosphere of fear. When Adam sinned, the first symptom of broken leadership was not laziness, it was fear. He said, I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid. Genesis 3:10. Fear makes leaders hide. Fear makes gifts go underground. Fear turns kings into fugitives in their own territory. Control breeds that fear. What is control? It is the obsession to secure outcomes by managing people instead of multiplying people. Control is motivated by insecurity. It accuses, threatens, withholds, and counts attendance instead of cultivating assignment. Control builds cages and calls them cultures. And listen to me, fear will give you compliance, but it will never give you greatness. Write that down. Fear produces attendance, not allegiance. Performance, not passion. Silence, not wisdom. Covenant is different. The Hebrew word berith means a binding agreement of protection, provision, and purpose. God doesn't contract with you because of your performance. He covenants with you because of his image in you. He said to Abraham, I will be your shield and your exceedingly great reward. Genesis 15:1. Shield is covering, reward is resource. That is leadership. You cover the people so they can become who God saw before he formed them. Psalm 91 says, he who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. That shadow is covering. When there is covering, people take holy risks. They stretch, they think, they try, they fail forward, they grow, they bring their whole self because they feel safe to be seen. Write this down. Safety is not softness. It is strength aimed at protection. Safety is not pampering. It is positioning. Safety is not comfort. It is covenant. This session is not about being nice. It's about building a system that mirrors the king. In the kingdom, covenant comes before commandment. Identity comes before instruction. God tells Jesus, this is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Before Jesus performs a single miracle, Matthew 3:17. Identity was covered before assignment was demanded. That's the model. Cultures feel safe when identity is honored and covered before performance is demanded. Let me disturb you. Leadership is born when toleration ends. If you tolerate fear in your environment, you will never change it. If you tolerate control in your vocabulary threats, surprise audits to terrify, public shaming to motivate, you will never see the leader trapped inside your people. I am here to end your toleration. Say it with me. I end my toleration of fear. Say it again. I end my toleration of fear. One more time for your descendants to hear you. I end my toleration of fear. Now, why am I so intense about this? Because vision is more important than leadership. Yes, I said it. Leadership without a clear covenantal vision becomes control. Vision defines where we are going. Covenant defines how we will travel. Trust determines who will still be with us when we arrive. If the blind lead the blind, both fall into a pit. That's Jesus, not me. Don't be impressed with power. Ask where we're going and how we are covering the people on the way. The lion doesn't have the size of the elephant or the speed of the cheetah. But when the lion sees an elephant, his mind says lunch. The elephant sees a lion and his mind says eat me. Same jungle, different belief. As a man thinketh. If your culture believes that mistakes equal punishment, they will hide. If your culture believes that covering equals protection, they will hunt. You cannot produce lions under the whip of Pharaoh. You must lead them under the wing of the Almighty. I am going to take you on a path in this series from fear-based control to influence by covering. We will open the scriptures. We will go into language. We will look at cases in history. We will show you structures that protect instead of police. But tonight, I need your permission to confront you. Because you cannot install a new operating system while celebrating the old virus. Control is a virus. Covenant is the cure. The Spirit of God is the antivirus. And this word is your installation manual. Write this down. Your job is what they pay you to do. Your work is what you were born to do. Control hires your job. Covenant releases your work. Companies that control get employees. Cultures that cover discover leaders. Say it with me. Trapped in every follower is a hidden leader. Louder. Trapped in every follower is a hidden leader. My assignment is to create a safe place for that leader to come out. So here is our agreement from the start. Number one, we will speak truth without flattery. Number two, we will honor identity before we demand performance. Number three, we will build covering as a system, not an event. And number four, we will measure greatness not by noise, but by fruit. Jesus reduced the crowd to find the core because he wasn't building a moment, he was birthing a movement. I want the core. I want you. What makes cultures feel safe enough for greatness? By the time we finish, you will answer that question with your life, not just your lips. Control breeds fear, covenant builds trust. Say it back to me. Again. One more time. Now write this final line in bold across your heart. We are replacing control-driven leadership with covenantal covering so people feel safe enough to become great. That is the opening challenge. And if you accept it, your generation will thank you for the culture you had the courage to create. So let's answer the question we dare to ask. What makes a culture feel safe enough for greatness? Write this down. Safety in the kingdom is not policy-first management. It is identity-first covering. Policies can regulate behavior. Covering releases being. Safety is not a manual, it is a mantle. Safety is not the absence of consequences, it is the assurance of belonging. Say it with me. Safety is the oxygen of greatness. Again, safety is the oxygen of greatness. Oxygen is invisible, but you know when it's missing. You don't brainstorm when you're suffocating. You gasp. You don't innovate when you're threatened. You freeze. You don't risk when you're ashamed. You hide. Where safety is absent, greatness holds its breath. Why is identity first essential? Because God's order never changes. Then God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion. Genesis 1:26. Image and likeness precede function. Identity before assignment. Dignity before duty. Write this down. Dominion, rad in Hebrew, does not begin with control over people. It begins with reflection of God. Rada is rulership under representation. Leadership begins when an image bearer remembers who sent him. If you invert the order task before identity, you create slaves with goals instead of sons with governance. That is why Adam's first crisis after sin was not unemployment, it was shame. I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid. Fear plus exposed identity equals hiding. That's a leadership diagnosis. You are not an accident, you are an assignment. Hear me. Safety starts where identity is secured. Before Jesus worked a miracle, the Father covered his identity publicly. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Matthew 3:17. Pleasure before performance. Belovedness before battle. That is not sentimentality. That is strategy. Write it down. Identity is the platform. Assignment is the program. If the platform is cracked, the program crashes. Let's go deeper. The Hebrew kafar means to cover. It shows up when God told Noah, kafar the ark with pitch. Genesis 6:14. Seal it. Protect it. Make it safe to carry life through storms. Leviticus uses kafar for atonement, covering that restores access. Covering is not hiding sin. Covering is providing protection while transformation happens. And chesed, steadfast love, covenantal loyalty. This is God's climate of care. I have loved you with an everlasting love. Therefore, with loving kindness, hesed, I have drawn you. Jeremiah 31:3. When hesed is the atmosphere, kafar becomes the practice. We don't excuse failure. We secure identity while we correct function. Psalm 91 paints the picture. Under his wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness is a shield and buckler. Wings and shield, that's covering. Write this down. In a culture of hesed, people don't fear exposure. They expect protection while they grow. Now let me confront the manager in you. Policy first. Leadership writes a handbook thicker than the Bible and thinks that equals safety. Cameras in every corner do not produce courage. They produce actors. Threats deliver compliance, not creativity. Quarters without covenant make people count hours, not make hours count. Write this down. If people must earn basic dignity, they will spend their brilliance proving they belong instead of building what does not exist. That is expensive mediocrity. The kingdom way says, you are image first, assignment second. Your mistakes do not cancel our covenant. Our covenant confronts your mistakes to protect your assignment. Greatness is a seed. Seeds don't fear dirt. They fear frost. Culture is climate. Policies are fences. Covering is a greenhouse. A fence can keep predators out, but it cannot manufacture spring. Covering creates spring in winter. Under a greenhouse, a fragile seed dares to germinate. Under hesed, a fragile gift dares to appear. Say it again. Safety is the oxygen of greatness. Breathe that truth. Oxygen doesn't grow the plant. It makes growth possible. Covering doesn't do the work for the person. It makes work worth the risk. Listen to scripture. Above all, keep loving one another earnestly, since love covers a multitude of sins. 1 Peter 4:8. That is not license. That is leadership. Love covers kafar in concept to maintain access so correction can produce maturity. Proverbs says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. If the heart of your culture believes, here I am safe to be seen, they will bring their whole self. If the heart believes, here I am only as valuable as my last metric, they will bring a mask. Write this down. Masks perform. Sons and daughters create. You ask, what does safety feel like? It feels like belonging that is not on probation. It feels like correction that protects destiny, not humiliation that protects ego. It feels like leaders who declare identity in public and do surgery in private. It feels like clarity about standards without anxiety about worth. It feels like the father running to the prodigal before a speech, covering shame with a robe, reinstating identity with a ring, then restoring function with shoes. Luke 15. Robe covering, ring covenant authority, shoes assignment. The order matters. Say this with me. I am not building cages. I am building covering. Louder. I am not building cages. I am building covering. Write this down. Safety is not the refusal to judge. It is the refusal to condemn identity while we judge fruit. Jesus said every tree is known by its fruit, but he never confused the tree's nature with a bad season. That's chesed thinking. You prune branches, you do not burn the orchard. Some of you lead homes, teams, churches, companies. Who is responsible for safety? Who's the leader? No one. And everyone, the head models it, yes, but every member must practice it. A $4 attitude, one sarcastic comment can puncture the greenhouse. So we start where? In the heart. We will give you practices later, but hear me now. If you don't believe people carry God's image before they perform a task, you will never sustain a safe culture. Belief precedes behavior. Mindset precedes methods. Vision of identity precedes version control of behavior. Let's seal it. Say it with me. Until it writes itself into your subconscious. Safety is the oxygen of greatness. Identity before assignment. Chesed in the atmosphere. Kafah in our practices. You are not an accident. You are an assignment. Culture feels safe when the image is honored and covered before performance is demanded. What did I say? Write it down. Then prepare your heart. Because once you install this belief, greatness will stop holding its breath in your house. Now we put on the kingdom lens that changes everything. Write this down. The way you see people determines the way you lead people. If you see them as risks to be managed, you will build contracts. If you see them as images to be covered, you will build covenant. One creates suspicion, the other creates safety. One polices behavior, the other protects becoming. What is a contract? A contract is an exchange protecting self-interest with exit clauses and surveillance. It says, if you do X, I will do Y. If you fail, I will punish or exit. I have cameras, clauses, and countdowns. A contract assumes mistrust, so it installs mechanisms to monitor and to manage. It is built on scarcity. I must protect me from you. It is motivated by fear. I cannot depend on you. It is enforced by penalties. I will make it costly to disappoint me. Write this down. Control by contract is leadership by anxiety. It is the paranoia that imagines betrayal and then legislates it into the culture. Under that system, people give you only enough to avoid pain. They comply. They do not create. They stay safe. They do not become great. Now hear the word of the Lord. Covenant is different. The Hebrew word is bereth, literally a cutting, a binding pledge of life and loyalty. The Greek is diatheke, a testament, a will, a one-sided declaration of commitment from the stronger to the weaker. Covenant is fueled by chesed, steadfast love, loyal kindness, unrelenting faithfulness. Hesed means I will not withdraw my commitment when you are weak. That is why Scripture says there is no fear in love. But perfect love drives out fear, 1 John 4:18. Write this down. Covenants don't negotiate fear, they remove it. When God cut covenant with Abraham, he said, fear not, Abram, I am your shield and your exceedingly great reward. Genesis 15:1. Shield is covering, reward is resource. That is the template of kingdom leadership. I will cover you and resource you to become. Let's take it to the laboratory called marriage. Marriage is not a contract of convenience, it is a covenant of covering. Genesis says, for this cause shall a man leave and be joined, and the two shall become one. Join is covenant language. In a contract, you say, I control you so you can comply. In a covenant, you say, I cover you so you can flourish. In a contract, you bring a prenuptial list of exit clauses. In a covenant, you bring a life laid down till death do us part. In a contract, you keep a secret ledger. Who did more? Who did less? In a covenant, you keep a public pledge. Your strength is my safety. Your weakness is my assignment. That is why Paul washed leadership through marriage and said, husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. Ephesians 5:25. Write this down. Covenant is sacrificial covering for the sake of another's becoming. Jesus gave us the culture code of covenant leadership the night he redefined greatness. A new commandment I give unto you, that you love one another as I have loved you. By this all men will know that you are my disciples, if you have love one to another. John 13:34-35. He didn't say by your contracts, your policies, your surveillance. He said by your covenantal love. How did he love? He covered, he washed feet before the betrayal. He restored Peter after denial. He fed the faith of Thomas in his doubts. That is Hesed, loyal love that removes the terror of rejection. Say it with me. Love is our culture code. Again, love is our culture code. One more time, like leaders. Love is our culture code. Write this down. Contracts manage risk. Covenants remove fear. Say it again until it rewires the hard drive. Contracts manage risk. Covenants remove fear. Why is that critical? Because greatness is allergic to fear. Fear suffocates initiative. Fear edits ideas before they are spoken. Fear causes people to hide their gift behind safe tasks. But when fear is removed by covenantal covering, human beings enter the garden again. They risk, they reach, they repent quickly, they recover swiftly, they grow boldly. That atmosphere is where dominion returns and destiny starts talking. Let me paint two rooms. In the first room, there are cameras in the ceiling, time clocks by the door, a policy manual thicker than a Bible, and a leader who quotes the handbook more than he quotes his vision. People whisper, they wait, they count minutes. They hide mistakes until they cannot hide them anymore. In the second room, there is clarity of purpose, promises of protection, correction delivered in private, praise delivered in public, and a leader who says, I will shield you while you stretch. People speak. They try. They bring their whole mind. They confess early. They recover fast. Now, who is the leader in those rooms? No one. And everyone in the first rank runs the room. In the second, responsibility leads the room. That is covenant. Ruth looked at Boaz and said, spread your garment over your maidservant. Ruth 3-9. That is covenant language. Cover me so I can be secure. He responded with Hesed, and a broken foreign widow became a matriarch in the royal line. Covering releases potential that contracts will never see. Write this down. When you cover someone, you prophesy to their future. When you control someone, you punish their present. Some of you lead like Herod, afraid of a baby's title, so you legislate to kill possibility. But the king leads like a shepherd. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Psalm 23-4. Rod is authority, staff is guidance. Both create comfort, safety. Covenant wields power to protect, not to threaten. That safety releases song in the valley and strategy at the table. What does a contract produce? Compliance, minimums, silence. What does a covenant produce? Trust, initiative, courage. People take ownership because they feel owned by love. Leaders, hear me. You cannot contract people into destiny. You must covenant them into it. You cannot police greatness into appearing. You must protect it into emerging. That is why God made a diatheke with us, a testament sealed by blood, so we would stop performing for acceptance and start performing from acceptance. While we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. He removed the fear of rejection so we could run toward transformation. Say it with me. Only covenantal commitment creates the felt safety that unleashes greatness. Again, only covenantal commitment creates the felt safety that unleashes greatness. Write this final line down and tattoo it on your leadership. I will not lead by contract to get compliance. I will lead by covenant to release courage. When you make that shift, you stop counting heads and start cultivating hearts. And when hearts are covered, heads will willingly carry vision further than your policies ever could. Now, let's run a symptom check on your culture. How does control colonize a people? It starts the same way it started in Egypt, fear of loss. Pharaoh looked at Israel and said, behold, the people are more and mightier than we. Come, let us deal shrewdly with them. Exodus 1-9-10. Write this down. Fear of loss breeds control of people. When leaders fear losing numbers, power, approval, or position, they stop multiplying people and start managing bodies. Pharaoh's strategy was simple. Increase pressure, reduce agency, keep them too tired to imagine. Later he commands, you shall no longer give the people straw to make bricks. Let them go and gather straw for themselves. Exodus 5-7. Bricks without straw. Hear me. Control demands bricks without vision. It loads tasks without meaning. It multiplies quotas and subtracts dignity. That is colonization, when the outside threat becomes an inside timidity. The enemy doesn't need chains if your people build their own prisons. King Saul is our next case. Israel celebrates a rising gift. Saul has slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s. 1 Samuel 18-7. Watch the insecure response. Saul eyed David from that day on, and then he threw a spear. Jealousy is control's firstborn child. Write this down. Control strangles emerging gifts and poisons the atmosphere. When a leader's identity is unanchored, another person's excellence feels like theft. So what happens? Spear-throwing meetings, public shaming for accountability, assignments designed to fail. Gifts learn to hide. Innovation goes underground into caves of Adullam, while the throne room becomes an echo chamber. Saul kept the title. David kept the anointing. Titles can sit in palaces. Greatness grows in hiding when fear governs the house. That's what control does. It makes David's dodge, Jonathan's whisper, and everyone else perfect the art of smiling without speaking. Write this down. Control creates silence, not safety. Quiet rooms are not healthy rooms. I don't trust a boardroom where everybody agrees too quickly. I don't trust a staff meeting where the newest voice never speaks. I don't trust a home where the only strong opinion is the parents. Silence is the sound of people calculating risk. They are running internal spreadsheets. If I say this, will I be shamed? If I question that, will I be sidelined? If I fail here, will I be labeled there? So you get nods, not nuance. Compliance, not counsel. Applause, not accuracy. Jesus asked questions that provoke thought. Control asks questions to trap and to track. What did I say? Quiet does not equal peace. Quiet can be fear holding its breath. Let me show you the speedometer. External limits become internal speed limits. On the highway, a sign says 50. At first, that restrains you. Keep it there long enough and your brain recalibrates. Even on an empty road, your foot eases off at 50 because the culture has installed a governor in your heart. That's what control does. It posts invisible limits in people's minds. Don't dream past this. Don't speak before them. Don't try that here. Don't outshine the boss. So talent lifts its foot off the accelerator, not because the engine can't handle more, but because it has been trained to fear the ticket. Write this down. The most dangerous speed limits are not on signs, they are in souls. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. If your culture thinks I'll be punished for failure, it will plan for small. If it thinks I'm covered while I grow, it will press the pedal into purpose. Your job is what they pay you to do. Your work is what you were born to do. Control confines job. Covenant releases work. A control culture obsesses over job description and weaponizes it. That's not your lane. Stay in your box. Don't ask why. Just do. In that environment, brilliant people exchange their calling for a checklist. But when covering leads, job becomes a platform for work. A receptionist becomes a gatekeeper of hospitality gifts. An intern becomes a research engine, discovering solutions. A drummer becomes a cultural thermostat. If they fire you, your gift goes with you. Control wants your hands. Covenant awakens your heart. Do an outcome audit. Write this down. Fear yields secrecy, flattery, and burnout. Safety yields truth, creativity, and longevity. Fear breeds secrecy because people hide data to survive no bad news until it's too late. Fear breeds flattery because praise becomes currency to buy protection. Honor is replaced by manipulation. Fear breeds burnout because constant vigilance is exhausting, perform to be safe, pretend to be valued, produce to be human. On the other hand, safety breeds truth people, surface issues early because they trust the response. Safety breeds creativity. Risk is normalized, not criminalized. Safety breeds longevity. People can imagine a future here because the culture invests in who they are, not just what they do. Let me ask you uncomfortable questions. In your last meeting, who spoke the least and why? When was the last time someone told you a truth you did not want to hear and were rewarded, not removed? How many times do problems arrive on your desk fully cooked because people were afraid to show you the raw ingredients? How many top performers are exhausted from pretending? How many new ideas die in hallway conversations because the room is not safe for their birth? Write it down. Control suffocates gifts and makes people hide. Fear can never produce greatness. Say it with me. Fear can never produce greatness. Again, fear can never produce greatness. Scripture agrees. God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. 2 Timothy 1:7. Power, capacity to act. Love, hesed, the climate of covering. Sound mind, clarity without panic. Fear is not a leadership tool. It is a leadership toxin. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. 1 John 4:18. Love doesn't coddle dysfunction. It casts out fear so truth can do its work. David's mighty men did not begin as mighty. They came to him in distress, in debt, and discontented. 1 Samuel 22:2. Under covering, misfits became warriors. Under control, warriors become fugitives. Which way does your culture flow? How does control colonize? Subtly. It hides in language because I said so. It hides in structures, approvals laid like a fortress. It hides in rituals, public corrections for private infractions. It hides in rewards, celebrating loyalty over fruit, noise over wisdom, hours over outcomes. It hides in assumptions. People are lazy unless policed. And then it sets up idols, attendance, optics, and fear of man. Write this down. Whatever you reward, you repeat. If you reward flattery, you will multiply liars. If you reward risk taken for vision under covering, you will multiply leaders. This is a diagnosis, not a condemnation. The good news is that colonization can be reversed, but not while we romance our symptoms. We must name them: silence, secrecy, flattery, burnout, internal speed limits, bricks without vision, spears in boardrooms. If you can see it, you can confront it. Leadership is born when toleration ends. Tonight, end your toleration of fear's fruits. Because until you do, greatness will keep hiding in caves while thrones grow quieter and colder. And quiet thrones do not build kingdoms. Covered people do. Let me define covering. Covering is protective strength positioned for another's potential. Write this down. Covering doesn't stop storms. It secures people so they can move through storms. Picture an umbrella. The rain still falls. The wind still howls. But under the umbrella, movement is possible. Conversation continues. Decisions are made. An umbrella doesn't rebuke the weather. It reorganizes your posture in the weather. That is leadership. You don't remove every risk. You remove the terror of exposure. You don't deny the rain. You ensure your people can walk, think, and take holy risks while it rains. Now here Jesus defined his own leadership. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. The hireling sees the wolf coming, leaves the sheep, and flees. John 10:11-13. Write this down. Covering is when leadership stands between danger and destiny. The shepherd doesn't hide the pastures. He absorbs the bite so the flock can graze. He takes the weather so they can learn to walk. He shoulders accusation so they can attempt bold things without the bruise of public shaming. The hireling manages outcomes. The shepherd carries burdens. Psalm 91 paints heaven's angle. He will cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness is a shield and buckler. Write this down. Security precedes assignment. Before the eagle trains the eagle to fly, it builds the nest, covers the young, and feeds them until confidence hardens. Then the push begins. That is the sequence of kingdom development. Wings first, wind second. You do not throw people into tempests to prove toughness. You covenant to be their shield while they learn the currents of responsibility. Let me clean a confusion. Covering is not smothering. Smothering overreaches, overtalks, and overruns initiative. It is a blanket that steals oxygen. Covering is a boundary that frees oxygen. Write this down. Boundaries that free are like guardrails on a mountain road. They do not slow a driver. They empower courage. Fences that cage are like bars around a crib. They keep movement infantile. Leaders remove the bars and install guardrails, clarify lanes, define non-negotiables, announce the cliff edge, then say within these lines, run. Covenant produces creative order, not chaotic freedom or paralyzing control. Mechanically, what does covering do? It pre-decides protection. Write this down. Covering establishes 4 shields before performance begins: identity, privacy, process, and provision. Identity shield. We declare worth publicly before the work is perfect. Privacy shield. We correct in private and refuse humiliation as a tool. Process shield. We allow iterations, feedback loops, and rehearsal space so skill can mature without the fear of exile. Provision shield. We budget time, tools, and recovery for experiments that fail forward. With shields present, people tell the truth early and stretch beyond yesterday's competence. Covering is also distributed. Who's the leader? No one. And everyone, write this down, in a covenant culture, each function becomes a shelter for the others. Finance covers creators from waste. Creators cover finance from soulless numbers by aiming money at meaning. Operations covers vision from chaos. Vision covers operations from drudgery by reminding them of why. Paul wrote that every joint supplies, even a small ligament, stabilizes a giant muscle. A $4 attitude can puncture the tent. A $4 act of honor can repair it. Mutual protection within clear roles releases speed. Embed covering into rhythms, pre-brief risks, define outcomes, acceptable errors, and escalation paths so courage knows its lanes. Shadow during stretch assignments. Not to spy, but to absorb external pressure while the person finds stride. Debrief with dignity. What worked? What failed? What we learned? What we changed? No blame, only responsibility. Establish a Sabbath of learning time protected from urgent noise where experiments are reviewed and new skills are practiced. Appoint guardians of justice to ensure truth, fairness, and privacy in corrections. Where rhythms protect people, people embrace responsibility with joy. Let me warn you, some leaders call micromanagement covering. That is counterfeit. Smothering breeds dependency and drowns originality. Covering cultivates maturity and originality. Write this down. Covering stands watch, not stand over. It shields from wolves and shame, then steps back enough for strength to develop. When Peter walked on water, Jesus did not build a dock. He said, "Come," then caught him when he sank. Catch, don't cage. Correct, don't crush. Protect, don't possess. That is the posture that releases potential. Say it with me. I protect you while you perform. I don't police you while you panic. Again, before we install practices, we must install a heart. Write this down. Methods sit on the surface. Mindset runs the software. You don't fix fear in a room by changing forms. You fix fear by changing the faith you carry about people. Scripture is blunt about this. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Proverbs 23:7. Not in his head, his heart. The Hebrew word is leb, the subconscious, the control center, the autopilot. Your heart is your internal governor. If in your leb you believe people are problems to be managed, you will build prisons with polite names. If in your leb you believe people are images to be covered, you will build greenhouses that grow oaks. Write this down. Your belief about people becomes their ceiling. The heart of a leader sets the height of the house. Two leaders can hold the same handbook and build two different climates. One walks into the meeting and his belief leaks before his words arrive. He scans the room for threats. He hears ideas as risks. He weaponizes rules. He quotes policy instead of purpose. The other walks into the same room and her belief leaks too. She scans for image bearers. She hears ideas as seeds. She wields standards like a gardener, uses stakes to support growth, not to strangle it. Same method, different mindset, different oxygen. Write this down. Leadership is 80% mentality and 20% method. Safety is a belief before it is a policy. Say it with me. Safety is a belief before it is a policy. Again, safety is a belief before it is a policy. Let me bring you to the savannah. I love the lion because it proves my point. The lion is not the strongest. The elephant can crush it. The rhino can gore it. Yet the lion never bows. Why? Mindset. Attitude is king. Your eyes say, that's an elephant. The lion's belief says, that's lunch. The elephant's eyes say, that's a lion. The elephant's belief says, that's terror. Write this down. Your attitude interprets reality. It doesn't just observe it. Control-driven leaders see gifted people as giants to fear. Covenant-minded leaders see gifted people as giants to feed. One throws spears. The other sets tables. One edits ideas before they breathe. The other invites ideas to stretch and promises to cover while they grow. Leaders with a covenant mindset look at Goliath moments and say, who is this uncircumcised Philistine? That word uncircumcised means outside of covenant. In other words, my covering is bigger than this threat. That is how safety starts. When a leader's heart believes that God's covenant is the safest climate to attempt impossible things. Say this out loud till it writes itself on your lip. I see image bearers, not instruments. Again, I see image bearers, not instruments. Louder, like you mean it. I see image bearers, not instruments. Write it down. Identity precedes utility. You do not handle people like tools, you honor them like temples. Let us make man in our image and let them have dominion. Genesis 1:26. Image first, dominion second. If you treat people by defect, you will get defensive behavior. If you treat them by design, you will get dominion behavior. Everyone was created to lead in their lane by their gift under God's image. Trapped in every follower is a hidden leader waiting for oxygen. You are not an accident. You are an assignment, and so is the person you are tempted to control. Listen to Jesus on how the heart controls the house. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Luke 6:45. Your language is your leak. If your heart believes people are lazy and less police, your words will betray you because I said so. Don't bring me problems. Who told you to think? That language manufactures fear. If your heart believes people are images under covering, your words create safety. Here's the why. Bring the raw data early. You are safe to try. I will correct you without condemning you. Write this down. The culture you hear is the heart you carry. Life and death are in the power of the tongue, but the tongue draws from the well of the heart. Change the well, and the water changes. I must confront a quiet idol. Suspicion masquerading as wisdom. Many leaders call it discernment. It is not. It's trauma. Pharaoh was suspicious and built cities of bricks. Jesus was discerning and built people into a body. Say it again. I see image bearers, not instruments. Covenantal covering starts with a presumption of design, not a presumption of deceit. Does that mean we ignore sin? Never. It means we judge fruit without condemning identity. It means our default setting is hesed, loyal love, that refuses to panic. Perfect love casts out fear. 1 John 4:18. If fear remains, check the love in your heart, not just the locks on your doors. How do you know what you really believe about people? Watch yourself when they fail. Your reaction reveals your revelation. Do you reach for a spear or for a shield? Do you expose them to protect your ego or cover them to protect their destiny? David covered Saul in the cave, though Saul would not have covered David. That hard posture made David safe for a nation. Write this down. Greatness is safe under leaders who are safe in their hearts. If you are secure in your image, you won't need to control someone else's. Let me give you a mind renovation. Replace 3 beliefs tonight. First, replace people are liabilities with people are latent leaders. Second, replace I must prevent failure with I must protect learning. Third, replace honor is earned with honor is bestowed by image and stewarded by fruit. Say it with me. Everyone was created to lead. Again, everyone was created to lead. When you believe that, your eyes change. You start looking for seeds, not weeds. You start speaking to the leader hidden in the follower. You start designing rooms where voices are invited without permission slips. David prayed, create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. Psalm 51:10. Clean heart, right spirit. That is leadership language. Ezekiel heard God promise, I will take away the stony heart and give you a heart of flesh. Ezekiel 36:26. Leaders, ask for this surgery. A stony heart can only enforce, a living heart can cover. Write this down. Before you restructure your org chart, let God restructure your heart. Mindset before methods. Belief before policies. Heart before handbook. Seal it now. Put your hand on your chest and declare, I choose covenant in my heart. I see image bearers, not instruments. I expect growth, not perfection. I will cover before I correct, and I will correct to protect destiny. Leadership is 80% mentality and 20% method. My belief system will make my culture breathe safety. Say it one more time for the record of heaven and the recalibration of your lib. I see image bearers, not instruments. When this belief takes root, policies become tools, not crutches. Correction becomes coaching, not courtroom. And your culture inhales enough oxygen for greatness to stop hiding and start building. Now we build a structure that lets safety breathe. Write this down. Safety rises from clarity, not from control. Clarity is kindness. Confusion is cruelty. In the kingdom, we do not centralize power, we distribute function. Everyone leads somewhere. Say it with me. Everyone leads somewhere. Again, everyone leads somewhere. Let me take you under the hood. I love cars because they don't lie. Picture a $90,000 machine. Sleek, powerful, a masterpiece of engineering. The engine hums with cylinders, pistons, belts, sensors, coils. Then a $4 wire comes loose. The whole car stops. The owner is furious at a wire. But the mechanic smiles and says, Sir, the wire leads in its function. Who's the leader of the engine? No one. And everyone. The spark plug leads when it's time to ignite. The piston leads when it's time to compress. The oil pump leads when friction rises. And the little $4 wire, it leads the moment connectivity is required. Importance is contextual and interdependent. Write this down. In a healthy system, leadership is functional, not positional. Gifts govern, titles serve. Scripture has been teaching this forever. For the body does not consist of one member, but of many. The eye cannot say to the hand, I have no need of you. 1 Corinthians 12:14-21. God arranged the body, giving greater honor to the part that lacked it, that there may be no division, so that each part supplies what is needed. 1 Corinthians 12:24-25. Ephesians 4:16. That is distributed functional leadership. Every joint supplies. The hidden parts are honored because they carry unseen loads. The loud parts are humbled because they are not all that matters. Write this down. When you honor function over position, you manufacture safety because no one must pretend to be everything. They can be exactly who God designed, and that is enough. So how do we design it? Start with domains. A domain is a territory of responsibility where a gift governs. Define it. Name it. Write the mandate on paper. Purpose. Why does this domain exist? Authority. What decisions can it make without permission? Boundaries. What must it consult before it moves? Measures. What fruit proves it is healthy? Resources. What budget tools and people are entrusted? When people know their domain, they know where they lead. Write this down. When people know where they lead, they stop competing and start contributing. Competition is the symptom of undefined domains. Contribution is the fruit of defined leadership. Next, install decision rights. There are only 4 you need to master. I decide, I recommend, I must be consulted, I am informed. That's it. Put those 4 by every major decision. Who decides hiring in the domain? Who recommends budget priorities? Who must be consulted before we change a process? Who is informed after we move? If you do not define this, politics will define it for you. Politics is the informal system that fills the vacuum of unclear authority. Write this down. If you don't draw the map, the loudest voice will. And the loudest voice is not always the wisest gift. Now, handoffs. Great teams don't drop the baton. Create service covenants between domains. Simple, written agreements that say, when A finishes, B begins within X hours with Y quality through Z channel. Not war and peace policy. One page, triggers, timelines, and checklists. Agree on escalation paths that are blame-free. If the baton fumbles, the person who spots it first owns recovery, not shame. We correct in private. We celebrate in public. We fix the system, not the soul. Safety grows when the path is clear. Anchor it in cadence. Daily 5-minute stand-ups by domain. What did we do? What did we learn? What do we need? Weekly cross-domain syncs to surface interdependencies. Monthly retrospectives that ask 3 questions. What will we start? What will we stop? What will we strengthen? Don't meet to fill calendars, meet to exchange leadership. Say it with me. Meetings are for movement, not for monuments. Let me take you to the tent of Moses. Jethro watched a gifted leader drown under undifferentiated demand. He said, what you are doing is not good. You will wear yourselves out. Then he gave a structure. Teach them statutes and show them the work. Appoint leaders of thousands, hundreds, 50s, 10s. Let them judge the small matters. You take the hard cases and stand before God for the people. Exodus 18, 17, 26. That is domain, decision rights, and handoffs. Moses kept vision. Others executed function. Vision is more important than leadership, because vision tells every leader where their function fits. Write this down. Distributed leadership is not abdication, it is multiplication. Here is a picture from the operating room. In surgery, who's the leader? The surgeon leads when the cut matters. The anesthesiologist leads when the breath matters. The nurse leads when sterility matters. If anyone decides to control everything, the patient dies. But when each gift governs its function, life is preserved. No one and everyone. That is safety by clarity. Some of you are afraid that if you share leadership, you will lose control. Hear the word. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Psalm 23:4. Authority used to protect creates comfort. It does not diminish you to authorize others. It extends you. He gave some to be apostles, prophets, evangelists, pastors, and teachers to equip the saints for the work of ministry so that we may grow up. Ephesians 4:11-15. Equip means place tools in the right hands for the right functions. If everything must come back to you, you are the $4 wire that is disconnected. Reconnect, not by hoarding control, but by supplying clarity. Declare this with me. In this house, gifts govern. In this house, domains are clear. In this house, decision rights are defined. In this house, handoffs are honored. One more time like you mean it. In this house, safety rises from clarity, not from control. Write this last line down and don't lose it. Everyone leads somewhere, and when each leads where they are assigned, all of us arrive where we are destined. Now we manufacture safety. Safety is not mystical, it is engineered. Write this down. Safety is engineered through covenantal vision, truth, justice, and protective behaviors practiced consistently. Not once, consistently. If you want greatness to appear, build the factory that makes it feel safe to show up. We are not guessing tonight. We are installing practices. Vision first, then truth, then justice, then covering. Finally, we will front load identity before we talk about jobs. Say it with me. Structure serves spirit. Again, structure serves spirit. Covenant of vision. If the blind lead the blind, both shall fall into the ditch. Matthew 15:14. That is Jesus on leadership malpractice. Vision prevents collision. Habakkuk wrote, write the vision and make it plain, that he may run who reads it. Habakkuk 2:2. Write this down. Vision is more important than leadership, because leadership without vision is just movement without meaning. A covenant of vision is not a slogan. It is an agreement about destination and behavior under pressure. It answers 4 questions in 1 page. Where are we going? Why does it matter? Who must we become? How will we behave when it's hard? Underline that last question. Pressure reveals culture. So we covenant our non-negotiables. We will honor image before output. We will tell the truth early. We will correct privately and protect publicly. We will practice justice predictably. Then we install rituals. Open every meeting by reading the destination and the non-negotiables out loud. Put the vision on the wall and the values on the calendar. Assign every role a piece of the vision with fruit attached. Here is how your gift moves us there. Who's the leader of that process? No one and everyone. Because when the destination is clear and the values are covenanted, rank stops driving and responsibility starts leading. Vision is a shield and a steering wheel. It covers hearts and it directs hands. Truth-telling rituals. Write this down. Fear hides data. Covenant surfaces truth. Jesus gave us a truth protocol. If your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. If he will not hear, take with you 1 or 2 more. If he refuses, tell it to the church. Matthew 18:15-17. That is not punitive. That is restorative. It is designed to protect dignity while pursuing accuracy. Engineer this into your rhythm. Establish weekly or bi-weekly retros, 30 minutes with 4 questions. What advanced our vision? What confused us? What damaged trust? What will we try next? And who needs covering to try it? Then install dissent by design. 1 seat in every meeting. Is the wisdom chair assigned to challenge assumptions without punishment? You rotate it. You honor it publicly. You clap for it when it saves you from the ditch. Teach your people the sentence stems of safety. Here's a risk I see. I may be wrong, but let me test a different angle. Make telling the truth normal, not heroic. Reward the first person to name a problem, not the last person to spin the story. Speaking the truth in love, we grow up. Ephesians 4:15. Write this down. Honesty without punishment accelerates intelligence. Punishment without honesty multiplies ignorance. Just processes. The kingdom word for justice is mishpat, predictable, principled judgment, and its partner is tzedakah, righteousness in relationships. God says, justice, justice you shall pursue. Deuteronomy 16:20. Why twice? Because injustice is stubborn. Write this down. Predictability equals safety. People can endure correction if they can predict it. Build and publish a clear pathway for discipline that is restorative, not retaliatory. Step 1. Clarify the standard and inquire, not accuse. Step 2. Coach with a plan and time-bound support. Step 3. Consequence proportionate to pattern, not panic. Step 4. Restoration pathway that measures growth, not groveling. Post your decision criteria. Record major decisions with the why, not just the what. Act 10:34 says God is no respecter of persons. That means we don't have favorites. Policy does not bend for personalities. When conflict arises, invite neutral witnesses early, not late. And when someone stumbles, remember Galatians 6:1. If a man is overtaken in a fault, you who are spiritual restore such a one in a spirit of meekness. Restoration is not avoidance. It is disciplined love. The rod and the staff comfort because they are used to protect, guide, and align, not to humiliate. Covering behaviors. These are the daily signals that say you are safe here to become great. Write this down. Protection shapes perception. 2 simple rules. Praise in public, correct in private. Leaders, if you must confront publicly, it must be about a principle, not a person. Jesus washed feet before betrayal. He restored Peter by a fire and a breakfast, not by a press release, John 21. Next rule, take blame, share credit. In crisis, use I. In success, use we. When a mistake is made under your covering, stand in front of the team and say, that's on me, I created the conditions. Then walk to the person privately and coach them like they are our future. Faithful are the wounds of a friend, Proverbs 27:6. But friendship does not perform surgery in the street. Celebrate learning, not just victory. When someone risks and fails in alignment with vision and values, ring a bell for the risk before you fix the result. Create a practice called shielding. The most senior person present answers hard questions from outsiders so the newest person can learn without trauma. That's covenant on legs. Identity first onboarding. Most leaders start with policies. Covenant starts with purpose. Day one is not for rules. Day one is for revelation. Genesis 1:26 still stands. Let us make man in our image and let them have dominion. Begin by introducing every new person to their image, gift, and assignment. Say it with me. You are not an accident. You are an assignment. Map their gifts. In Greek, charismata, grace gifts, are given to serve, 1 Peter 4:10. Discover their dominant gift and design their work around it. Your job is what they pay you to do. Your work is what you were born to do. Employment follows deployment. Show them how their gift moves the vision. Give them a covenant card they sign and you sign, we will cover you while you grow. You will tell the truth early. We will practice justice predictably. You will pursue excellence with humility. Then, and only then, hand them the policy manual. When identity comes first, policies become instruments of flourishing, not instruments of fear. Write this down. Charisma can attract. Only covenant can sustain. Charisma fills rooms. Covenant fills souls. Charisma gathers a crowd. Covenant grows a culture. Don't be impressed with power. Ask where we're going and who we're becoming on the way. Say it with me. We will lead by covenantal vision. We will tell the truth without terror. We will practice justice predictably. We will cover before we correct. And we will correct to protect destiny. Again, we will lead by covenantal vision. We will tell the truth without terror. We will practice justice predictably. We will cover before we correct. Leadership is born when toleration ends. End your toleration of randomness. Install these practices. Do them until they do you. Because when vision is covenanted, truth is ritualized, justice is predictable, and covering is visible, people will breathe. And when people breathe, purpose runs. And when purpose runs, greatness stops hiding and starts building. We have built the language and the structures. Now let history testify. Write this down. Case studies don't lie. They expose the root that produced the fruit. Let me start with a woman on a bus. Rosa Parks was not tied in her legs. She was tied in her soul. She decided to stop tolerating dishonor. Leadership is born when toleration ends. But hear me, her courage did not stand alone. A covenantal covering formed around a moral vision. Dr. King and a community of pastors, mothers, students, and shopkeepers created a safe house for courage. Carpools were organized. Legal teams were assembled. Kitchens became command centers. Ushers became street marshals. They built a shield so ordinary people could do extraordinary things. That is covering. It is protection positioned for potential. They declared the identity of a people before demanding performance. They preach, let justice roll down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. Amos 5:24. And because the vision was covenantal, not contractual, no one had to be paid to do right. They joined a promise bigger than fear. Who was the leader of the movement? No one. And everyone, yes, King, carried vision. But the mother with a station wagon led when the morning came. The printer led at midnight with flyers. The deacon led when the police arrived with a smile and a hymn. The fruit? Courage, creativity, community. Write this down. Covering manufactures public safety for courage. People dare when they know they are not alone. Now look at the first ecclesia, the prototype of a safe culture. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and fellowship, to the breaking of bread and prayers. All who believed were together and had all things in common. They distributed to each as any had need. Acts 2:42-45. Later we read, the full number of those who believed were of one heart and soul. There was not a needy person among them, and great grace was upon them all. Acts 4:32-35. That is covenantal covering in the wild, needs met. Shame reduced. Fear lowered. Initiative increased. When fear drops, gifts rise. Peter and John, once hiding, stood before councils with boldness and said, we cannot but speak of what we have seen and heard. Acts 4:20. Why? They were covered by a praying, giving, truth-telling community. The place shook, not because they shouted, but because they covenanted. Write this down. Generosity is a shield. Fellowship is a firewall. Teaching is a guardrail. When covering is present, people confess early, they take holy risks, and they stretch without terror of exposure. Let's walk into a cave with David. You know the story. Saul hunted him. Opportunity arrived to take Saul's life, and David's men said, the Lord has delivered your enemy into your hand. David cut a corner of Saul's robe, and then his heart smote him. He said, the Lord forbid that I should do this thing to my master, the Lord's anointed. 1 Samuel 24. Instead of control, he chose covering. He protected Saul's dignity while confronting his behavior. He stood in the mouth of the cave and held up the fabric truth with honor. That posture made David safe for a nation. Write this down. When you refuse to seize by control what God intends to grant by covenant, you gain legitimacy that cannot be stolen. David's restraint created a climate of safety around his leadership that later drew tribes voluntarily. Covering begets legitimacy. Control may win a moment. Covering builds a throne that lasts. Now, the cautionary tale. I must be a father for a second. Charisma plus control equals catastrophe. Jim Jones gathered people with a gospel of equality, but erected a culture of secrecy, isolation, and fear. He moved his flock into the jungle, away from scrutiny, away from accountability, away from the common table of truth. He exploited loyalty, demanded total obedience, punished dissent, blurred the lines between God's voice and his own appetite. That is not covenant. That is cult. Jesus warned, if the blind lead the blind, both shall fall into the ditch. Matthew 15:14. And fall they did into manipulation, into terror, into mass death. Write this down. Fear masquerading as faith always ends in control. Control always ends in collapse. When covering disappears, panic takes the pulpit, and people pay with their lives. This is why leaders must choose the rod and staff that comfort, not the lash and chains that coerce. Back to the template King modeled. He framed a vision anchored in Imago Dei. Every human bears God's image. He covered with nonviolence, training marchers to absorb blows without returning them protection of moral destiny. He covered with legal teams, with songs that stitched courage to frail hearts, with churches that fed bodies and souls. He corrected injustice without dehumanizing the unjust. The fruit revealed the root. Write this down. By their fruit you will know them. Matthew 7:16. Courage and creativity signal covering. Secrecy and panic signal control. Say it with me. The fruit reveals the root. Again, the fruit reveals the root. Let me make it practical. Audit your culture like Acts 2, like Montgomery, like David in the cave. Do your people confess mistakes early? That's fruit covering is present. Do they bring raw ideas without dressing them in perfection? That's fruit safety is alive. Are meetings places of prayerful purpose and shared bread, or performance anxiety and performance mass? Fruit reveals root. Conversely, is there a fear of bringing bad news? Is truth delayed until the last minute to avoid embarrassment? Are decisions shrouded in secrecy and justified by because I said so? Those are weeds from the root of control. Whatever you tolerate, you will never change. Leaders, stop tolerating panic as policy. Panic is not strategy. It is a confession of unbelief. Even Israel's judges and kings teach us the contrast. When a leader covered the people with covenant faithfulness, think of Hezekiah restoring worship, shielding the nation under prayer. Courage rose and enemies fled. When a leader controlled by fear, think of Saul, throwing spears at sons and servants. Songs died and loyalty withered. Write this down. Control throws spears at the very musicians sent to heal you. Covering invites those musicians to tune the house and strengthen your soul. So what did we learn? Kingdom covering produces courage and community. Cultic control produces collapse. History is your witness. Scripture is your anchor. From the upper room to the bus seat to the cave's mouth, God honors leaders who choose covenant over control. Say it aloud until your left believes it. I cover to cultivate. I do not control to contain. Again, I cover to cultivate. I do not control to contain. The fruit reveals the root. If you want the fruit of boldness, engineer covering. If you want the fruit of creativity, practice generosity and truth. If you crave a community that runs toward Goliath-sized problems, refuse Saul's spears and build David's cave honor with honesty, strength with restraint. Write it down and don't lose it. Where leaders covenant to cover, greatness stops hiding and starts marching. Where leaders cling to control, people stop breathing and systems stop living. Choose your route and you have chosen your future. This is the turning point. Write this down. Leadership is born when toleration ends. If fear is present, somebody permits it. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, in Greek, deilia, cowardice, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. 2 Timothy 1-7. So if fear is breathing in your culture, it did not come from God. It came from permission. It came from what you tolerate, excuse, rename, or hide. Whatever you tolerate, you will never change. Tonight we end our toleration of fear. First, audit your house. Not with a spreadsheet. Use your ears, your eyes, and your conscience. Where do people whisper? That's where safety has been taxed. Where do people withhold? That's where truth has been punished. Where do people wait for permission to do what the vision already commands? That's where control lives. Walk your halls. Scroll your messages. Sit in your meetings and ask, who edits themselves before they speak? Who brings you only polished data and never raw reality? Who apologizes for asking questions? Who says, I didn't want to bother you because your presence has become a thundercloud? Write this down. Whispers, withholds, and waits are fear's footprints. Follow them back to the leader. Follow them back to you. Repentance is not tears, it is a turn. Metanoia, change of mind, that becomes a change of methods. David prayed, search me, O God, and know my heart. See if there be any wicked way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Psalm 139-23-24. Leaders, we begin by confessing the ways we license fear. James 5:16 says, confess your faults one to another, and pray for one another that you may be healed. Healing begins where hiding ends. Stand before your people and name it plainly. I have tolerated fear. I have used surprise meetings to intimidate. I have corrected in public to protect my image. I have rewarded agreement and punished candor. I repent. Write this down. You cannot cover what you will not confess. Public fear must be healed by public covenant. Now make the trade. Replace surveillance with shepherding. Replace secrecy with sunlight. Replace suspicion with standards. Surveillance counts heads and watches clocks. Shepherding counts hearts and watches growth. Jesus didn't say, monitor my employees. He said, feed my sheep, John 21:17. Shepherding walks the floor not to catch but to coach, not to pounce but to protect. It asks, what do you need to succeed? It carries a rod and a staff that comfort, not a spear that humiliates. Psalm 23:4. Secrecy breeds shadows where serpents hide. Sunlight disinfects. Everything that becomes visible is light. Ephesians 5:13. Default your processes to open unless privacy protects dignity. Publish decisions with the why, not just the what. Post criteria before you evaluate, not after you punish. And suspicion, kill it with standards. Set clear, measurable, written expectations so performance is judged by fruit, not by moods. You shall not show partiality in judgment. You shall hear the small and the great alike. Deuteronomy 1:17. Write this down. Where shepherding replaces surveillance, people volunteer truth. Where sunlight replaces secrecy, rumors starve. Where standards replace suspicion, dignity returns. Make covenantal commitments and say them out loud so heaven, hell, and your own heart can hear them. I will cover your learning. I will confront in love. I will keep my word. Numbers 23:19 says, God is not a man that he should lie. Leaders bearing his image must keep their word as oxygen for trust. Say it again. I will cover your learning. I will confront in love. I will keep my word. Covering your learning means failure in alignment with vision is a tuition we invest, not a crime we prosecute. Confronting in love means correction aims at destiny, not at dignity. Keeping your word means dates, decisions, and disciplines are sacred, not negotiable with your mood. Write this down. Fear ends when the leader ends it in public. Call a reset meeting. Bring your core team into the room and do 3 things. 1, confess specifically and ask forgiveness. Name moments, not generalities. 2, announce the tradecraft shift surveillance to shepherding, secrecy to sunlight, suspicion to standards, and hand them the first 2 policy changes that prove you mean it. 3, issue a covenant invitation they sign and you sign. We will tell the truth early. We will practice justice predictably. We will cover learning. We will confront in love. We will keep our word. Then schedule the first 30 days of shepherding touch points because covenant is a calendar before it is a feeling. We will detail that. But tonight, we plant the flag. Some of you must tear down altars that fed fear, retire the CC the World email ambush, ban surprise disciplinary meetings, abolish sarcastic jokes that demean in the name of team culture, end anonymous complaint boxes that become weapons. Replace them with named, protected channels and a predictable, documented response timeline. Stop weaponizing metrics. Use them as mirrors, not whips. Replace closed-door whispers with open-door reviews. Install a standing rule. We praise in public. We correct in private. We escalate problems early without shame. Say it with me. We praise in public. We correct in private. We escalate early without shame. Hear the promise of God to leaders who become coverings. A man shall be as a hiding place from the wind and a covert from the tempest. As rivers of water in a dry place, as a shadow of a great rock in a weary land. Isaiah 32:2. That is leadership safe enough that weary greatness can rest, drink, and then rise. That is your assignment. You are not an accident. You are an assignment to be a shelter where gifts grow bold. Now seal it with your mouth. Put your hand on your chest and declare, I choose covering over control today. Again, I choose covering over control today. Louder with your destiny in mind. I choose covering over control today. Write this down. Today is the most spiritual day in leadership because it is the only day you can obey. Tomorrow is a rumor. Yesterday is a receipt. Today is a covenant. This is your reset. You are not the warden of a prison. You are the shepherd of a people. You are not managing slaves. You are cultivating kings and queens made in the image of God. End your toleration of fear. Make your confession. Make your trade. Make your covenant. And watch what happens when people feel safe enough to become great. Leadership is born when toleration ends. Tonight, birth it. This is your commissioning. Write this down. Deploy your gift under covenant and you will manufacture a culture where greatness feels safe to appear. Your job is what they pay you to do. Your work is what you were born to do. Jobs end, work does not. If they fire you, your gift goes with you. We are not building empires of titles. We are cultivating gardens of gifts. Say it with me. You are not an accident. You are an assignment. Louder. You are not an accident. You are an assignment. And your assignment is to cover, not control. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. 2 Timothy 1:7. Fear controls. Love covers. Power protects. A sound mind plans. Tonight we plan. 30 days. 4 weeks. Not theory deployment. Write this down. Week 1, listen and trust audit. Week 2, covenant commitments. Week 3, truth rituals. Week 4, just processes and public covering. By day 30, the atmosphere will shift, not by shouting, but by structure that serves spirit. Vision is more important than leadership, because vision tells leadership where to go and how to behave under pressure. Week 1, listening and trust audit. James wrote, let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger. James 1:19. That is your blueprint. Schedule one-on-ones with your core people, 15 to 30 minutes each. Ask 3 questions and do not defend. What makes this place feel unsafe? To tell the truth. 2, where have I personally taught you to hide? 3, what one protection would free you to risk this month? Listen, take notes, say thank you. Do not explain. Do not fix in the room. Then run an anonymous 5-question pulse to everyone. I feel safe to admit mistakes without punishment. I can disagree here without retaliation. When I raise a problem, someone helps me solve it. My leader protects my reputation while I learn. I know how decisions are made. Use a simple 1-5 scale. That is your psychological safety baseline. Count error reports for the last 60 days. Count new ideas submitted last month. Identify your top 20% performers and check their retention risk. Proverbs says, the purposes in a man's heart are deep water, but a man of understanding draws them out. Proverbs 20:5. Draw it out. Safety begins with listening. Week 2, covenant commitments. Habakkuk 2:2 says, write the vision and make it plain, that he may run who reads it. Draft a 1-page covenant with your team. 4 lines, where we are going, why it matters, who we must become, how we will behave when it's hard. Install the non-negotiables we have taught. We will honor image before output. We will tell the truth early. We will practice justice predictably. We will protect reputations publicly and correct privately. Read it aloud at the start of every meeting. Sign it, leaders first. Post it where eyes must pass. Remember Psalm 23, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Authority used to protect creates comfort. Publish decision rights by domain. I decide, I recommend, I must be consulted. I am informed. No one and everyone. Gifts govern, titles serve. Vision first, then structure. Vision is more important than leadership because it makes average leaders safe and great leaders necessary. Week 3, truth rituals. Engineer telling the truth without terror. Jesus gave us Matthew 18, not as a weapon, but as a healing protocol. Go privately, bring witnesses, escalate for restoration. Create a weekly 30-minute retro with 4 questions. What advanced our vision? What confused us? What damaged trust? What will we try next? And who needs covering to try it? Rotate the wisdom chair. In every meeting, the assigned dissenter who must challenge groupthink. Clap for the wisdom chair when it saves you. Install an error reporting channel that rewards first notification. Every reported error triggers learning, not lashing. Track time to truth. How long from problem appearing to problem name. Speaking the truth in love, we grow up. Ephesians 4:15. Write this down. Honesty without punishment accelerates intelligence. Make it normal to bring raw ideas without makeup. Measure idea flow, number of new ideas per person per month, and the percentage moved to test within 2 weeks. Week 4, just processes and public covering. Deuteronomy says, justice, justice you shall pursue. Deuteronomy 16:20. Publish a transparent 4-step corrective pathway. Clarify standard and inquire. Coach with a time-bound plan. Apply proportionate consequence for patterns, not panics. Map a restoration path with milestones. Galatians 6:1 commands. Restore such a one in a spirit of meekness. That's covering in motion. Institute shielding. The most senior person answers for the newest in external heat. Practice credit sharing and blame bearing. In public, say I. In victory, say we. Stand before your people and repent for specific controls. You've practiced spears you threw with deadlines. Silence you demanded during dissent. Secrecy you justified. Leadership is born when toleration ends. End your toleration of fear in you first. Then commission 2 emerging leaders to shadow you for 30 days. Meet weekly for 30 minutes. Teach them to cover. Let them co-lead a meeting, run a retro, practice a Matthew 18 conversation with you present, and lead shooting once. What you have heard from me, entrust to faithful men who will be able to teach others also. 2 Timothy 2:2. Multiply covering, not meetings. Now, metrics that matter. Write this down. We measure what we value. We value what we measure. 1. Psychological safety index. The average of your 5 pulse questions. Aim for a 20% increase by day 30. Error reporting rate. Count the number of issues raised per week. If safety rises, this number goes up before it goes down. That's health. 3. Idea flow ideas per person per month and time to test. Healthy cultures test fast. Retention of your best 0 surprise resignations among your top 20% over the next quarter, and a documented growth plan for each. 5 supporting signals. Time to truth drops. Dissent appears earlier. Decision rights disputes decline. Restoration cases complete with learning captured. And newcomers can describe the covenant by day 3. By their fruit you will know them, Matthew 7:16. Fruit doesn't lie. Before we close, I want you to decree your deployment. Put your hand on your heart. Say it with me. I am not an accident. I am an assignment. Again, I am not an accident. I am an assignment. My assignment is to manufacture safety so greatness can appear. Say it louder. The world needs me to cover, not control. Again, the world needs me to cover, not control. My gift will make room for me. Proverbs 18:16. My covering will make room for others. My job is what they pay me to do. My work is what I was born to do. Starting now, I deploy my gift to protect, to clarify, to restore, to release. In the next 24 hours, schedule your week 1 conversations. In 72 hours, draft a 1-page covenant. By day 10, post decision rights. By day 15, truth rituals running. By day 25, justice pathway public. Shielding active. By day 30, stand before your people and renew the covenant aloud. Do not wait for perfect. Start with present. Remember Moses' structure saved him from drowning in demands. Remember David restraint crowned him. Remember the upper room covenant birthed courage. Write this last line down and never lose it. Deploy your gift under covenant and you will create a house where gifts breathe, fear breaks, and greatness stops hiding. No one and everyone cover and watch the image of God rise.